Welcome, everyone, to Life Stories Worldwide. It's good to have you with us today. My name is Bill Keith, and I'm speaking from the United States of America. I live in the San Diego, California area, and we're having a beautiful day out here today, and we hope your day is beautiful, and it's going to be after you hear our speaker today. I want to give you a snapshot picture of what Life Stories Worldwide is all about. We share personal stories from people all over the world. Stories of victory over struggles, overcoming life challenges, stories of being set free from addiction, physical healings, forgiveness, stories of people helping other people, relationships being restored, and so many different beautiful stories of how people's lives can be changed. There are many more topics and many more issues that we could cover, but as of today, we have reached over 100 million people around the world with these fabulous stories. We shared over 500 stories of people's lives being transformed. We broadcast Life Stories Worldwide every Monday evening at 8 p.m. UK time. You can find us on Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook. These stories can be viewed again on our YouTube channel. If you check it out on YouTube, Life Stories Worldwide. And I believe there are some even at Life Stories at lunchtime. You could also find us on Spotify. There's a beautiful way to re-listen to the different stories that have already been taken on the Spotify app. If you want to contact us, you could contact us through our website, which is lifestoriesworldwide.com. Lifestoriesworldwide.com. On that website, you'll find some other resources like the free Gideon Bible app. This app can be used for your personal use, and it will also help you with your development in life. You can email us at lifestoriesworldwide@gmail.com if you'd like to communicate to us, or if you'd like to contact us by phone, you can phone us up at +44 794 355 0287. Again, that is +44 794 355 0287. Again, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. The story we're about to hear, we have a speaker named Bain. He's from the Aberdeen area in Scotland, and he's going to be sharing his personal life story with us today. Ricky and his wife, Joanne, are making a difference in their community. Ricky has a special calling on his life to help men find ways to overcome their challenges in life. At this time, I'd like to thank Ricky for being with us, taking the time to come on Life Stories Worldwide and to share his story. And you'll see the changes that take place in a man's life. Ricky, thank you for being with us today. It's all yours.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bill. It's actually a pleasure to be here, wherever you're watching from on the screen. It's amazing what modern technology can do. And I'm sitting here in my upper living room in a place called Alford, Aberdeenshire, and I've been here now for 12 years. I'm married to a beautiful lady called Joanne. I have 5 children, 4 girls and a boy, and have a grandson now. So delighted with an ever-growing family. And but let's go back to the start, because every story has a beginning and an ending, and I just want to share my own life story. And it's great when you meet people, because you see them now, me at 54, but you don't know what it was before. So here I go. Yes, I stay in Alford, Aberdeenshire, but before that, many years before that, I was born in Aberdeen, Scotland, and moved to a place called Stromness, Orkney, in 1970. And I was the youngest of 3 boys, 2 older brothers. So we're the youngest of 3 boys, my mum and dad. My dad was from Aberdeen originally, Aberdonian as it's called. My mum was from Orkney, a Stromnesian lady, and then met in Aberdeen and then moved to Orkney in 1970. In the early years, my dad took a big chance in life because he came up to a place that he didn't know very well, and he decided to open a shop in Kirkwall, which was called a Levi shop. And at that time, they were the only Levi outlet on the island. So, yes, he made a good living from it, and it's a chance he took, and he wasn't scared, that's for sure. But for me, growing up, in a beautiful place in the late 70s and early 80s in my teenage years, you go back to the late 70s, and time was different then, wasn't it? It felt different. And I saw you through young eyes as well. So growing up there was fantastic. It was a beautiful island. The freedom was fantastic. You just had to go out in the morning and come back at night. There's no worries. You didn't have mobile phones as such, so you're just given a free reign over the island. And I loved growing up in a place called Stromness, where I made so many good friends and created so many good memories. We actually stayed in a house which is owned by my granny, my late granny. It was called Ibrox. For many of you out here who don't know what Ibrox means, it's actually the stadium of a famous football team called Glasgow Rangers. My granny was a huge Glasgow Rangers fan, so me and my two brothers followed after her, following Glasgow Rangers, and my mum and dad obviously were Aberdeen fans. So you can imagine on match day the banter and yes, there were arguments as well in those times. But my earliest memories growing up was primary school, and for me at that time was growing up primary 2, primary 3, and then all of a sudden we were put outside at break time. And many of you know, if you're American, it's called soccer. In the UK, it's football. And this round instrument in my life was something that attracted me from a young age. And even at a young age, I was quite fast. I'm not the biggest guy. I was quite small. I was agile. So the game of football to me was a perfect mix. It was a great thing. It was an outlet to me as well. It was a passion. And it's still to this day, it's in my heart here. I love the game.
Lifestories Worldwide is broadcast live every Monday night at 8 p.m. UK time. We broadcast on YouTube, Facebook and StreamYard. Why not join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. UK time for Lifestories Worldwide. Speak to us here at Lifestories Worldwide. You can simply by dialing +44 7943 550287. Call us now.
And I've played it all my life, but from a young age, I used to play in the playground, and it was weird because in the Stromness primary school at the time, it was concrete, so you can imagine the state of our knees and many scrapes and blood all the time. But it's a great, for a young boy and a young girl now. Many girls play football as well, but at that time it was mainly boys that played it, and I used to love the break times. It was just my passion because I played it 24/7, and again making many good friends through it. Home life at the time, if you looked at our life, it was probably attractive to many because we lived in a lovely home. We actually lived right at the top of Stromness, so we could see beautiful views all over the place in the morning. It was just like, and I got used to it. You didn't actually, I suppose, appreciate the views at that time at a young age because life was just so fast. You wanted to do things all the time. So life at home, like I said, I had two older brothers, good brothers as well. Mum and dad and my granny stayed in the home. But as you know, families can have different dynamics. And my mum, obviously, the mother-in-law and my dad really didn't see eye to eye. So it's a case of she spent time in the sitting room and my dad spent time in the kitchen, and it was probably hard for me at the time. But you probably get used to it. I love my granny. She was a homemaker, a baker, all that stuff. And when my mum and dad worked, myself and my two older brothers would come home from school, and she was always there in the mornings. Our breakfast was made. She was very a generous lady, a beautiful lady, and just like an old-fashioned grandmother. And she was my go-to, was my safe place. And I remember growing up many times at night time, I was just sit by her chair in the corner. It was her chair in the living room, and she would tell me stories of my grandfather. My grandfather had been a very good football player. in Orkney. And growing up, I was 6 months when he died, so I had no recollection or memories of my grandfather. But yet through my granny, I could picture what he was like and his personality. And you know what? For those of you who still have grandparents, please value them, because the wisdom they give you, it's way beyond reading books. It's the face-to-face, and the stories are fantastic. And for me, she was my safe place. Mum and dad, good, hard-working people. Mum, a beautiful person. My dad, great guy, hard worker, and but being from the northeast of Scotland at that time, way back, he was quite probably, how would I use it, quick-tempered, and yeah, he didn't mince his words, put it that way. He was a man's man, and always had a good heart, but just not patient. And sometimes the atmosphere at home wasn't the best. And in fact, many nights I would come home, and Orkney, Stromness, small place, you can picture it, a summer's night, coming home, and I could hear shouting from the kitchen or whatever, and they were arguing. And many times I've just walked past my house and not even go home, because I thought, I can't go into that environment. And even when it was raining, sometimes I would just go past the house and walk around Stromness, and many people must have thought, oh, Ricky's walking again. But you know what? It was just a place sometimes I didn't want to go home, and that was hard too. But like when my granny was home, it was wonderful. And I remember this time when she said to me, Ricky, do you fancy going to which they called was the Boys Brigade? And I'm thinking, the Boys Brigade, what's all that about? And a lot of my friends were starting to go. And the Boys Brigade, it's a place where the boys went, and it was obviously a Christian organisation. It was a place that was backed by the church. So I thought, yeah, it sounds like a safe place. And when I went there, it was great fun. It was an era of less health and safety, maybe no health and safety as such, but it was good times when we played games like British Bulldogs. Murder Ball was a game we played, and it was no rules, and I loved it. I love the rough and tumble. And yet we did parades, we did marching some nights, and it was the first time I probably heard, as many of you know, was probably the Lord's Prayer as well. It was every time we went there, we say the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven. So it just never thought much about it. You just thought, well, that's part of it. And then the schools, obviously, started going to schools. The primary school did the same. Our Father who art in heaven academy going forward did that as well. So it was kind of a regular occurrence, saying prayers every morning. And at that time, I just wanted fun, like every other boy does. You just want fun at that age, from your late 8, 9, 10, and going into 11, 12, and the teenage years, etc. So the Boys Brigade for me, very much in my life, that was a huge impact in my life, because I went to many Boys Brigade camps, from once in Orkney to further afield in Scotland. And you know what, looking back, probably the best times of my life. It was just phenomenal, because you're with your friends, the weather was fantastic, you're playing games, you're having fun, and I just loved it. It was just a brilliant time. And then, but yet, on a Friday night, Boys Brigade finished, we started going to one of the officers' homes to just have tea and juice and biscuits, which I love biscuits. And then this guy would just start kind of playing his guitar, and what at that time they were called worship songs. And he spoke about this guy called Jesus, and I'm thinking, who is this Jesus? But over time, the Friday nights were fantastic. I loved the Boys Brigade, but sometimes I look forward going to the after it even more, because I was starting to learn stories about who Jesus was, because I'd never kind of encountered this name Jesus before. And saying that, in Orkney and probably everywhere in Scotland, usually had every second word was Jesus. It was usually a swear word, and it still is. So so going there, this officer wasn't ashamed of who he believed in, and I really admired this guy, because I would say what he said, he lived it. And how many can say that even to this day, that he didn't swear, obviously. He was a good man, he led a good life, he was full of fun, and yet he seemed to care about people. I'd never seen this before. I genuinely, not just token gestures. So he was a big influence. And so going forward in the times of primary school and into the academy, like I said, I was good at sports, so I was often a sports captain from the primary school into the academy. And academically, you know what, it's weird, because at primary school I was probably in the higher groups, and for some strange reason, going in the academy, it just seemed to go all askew. Maybe that's to do with home life as well, I don't know. I'm not blaming anybody at the time, but maybe that's a reason for not doing good in the academic field, and also probably chasing other things I shouldn't have chased. But that's the story of it. So going to the academy, it was a big jump, because you're going from primary into this academy. There's more people there. And for me at the time, there's obviously more girls came, and so that was fun for any boy. So I had a good time. And I was put into inter-school class. It was different ones called Thorfinn, Sig and Magnus, and I was captain of Thorfinn. So at the time, people called me the Levi kid because I had Levi's.
It's very easy to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Life Stories at Lunch, to receive notifications of when we are live. Simply click the bell. If you would like to contact us here at Life Stories Worldwide, you can. Simply by emailing lifestoriesworldwide@gmail.com or visit our website at lifestoriesworldwide.com.
And at the time, I didn't really think much of it because I wore them anyway. I was really blessed. I never wanted for nothing materially, that's for sure. Other things probably didn't really, my dad was, like I said, a working man, but didn't really have a chance to speak, maybe share his heart, like a father's heart. My mum could speak. She was great. And at first it was tough because I remember going home after school one time, and my auntie was there, and I thought, what's going on? She said, oh, your granny's locked herself in the house. And I'm thinking, locked? Why she lock the door? Because in Orkney at the time, nobody locked their doors. That was the culture then. And I even think sometimes now they don't lock their doors. But then, and I looked at my granny's window because she'd kind of managed to get onto her bed, but she was holding her hip, and it was agony. So I managed, because I was wee, I managed to go past the end of the house and jump into the back window and ran through, and obviously opened the door. My auntie phoned the ambulance, and you know what? It's quite tough now because that was the last time I ever saw her. She'd went to hospital, unfortunately caught pneumonia and passed away. And for me at a young age, probably 12, it's my first kind of traumatic experience of death. And it just wasn't any person. This was my granny. This was my person I saw first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So as you can imagine, for any young person, that was a game changer. It was a tough experience, and obviously so much devastation from my mum and my dad. But you know what, life moves on. We know that. But even now, that was one special lady. Actually, she gave me my first Bible as well. So there you go. I don't know if she was what they call a Christian at the time, but she gave me my first Bible and encouraged me to go to Boys Brigade. So there we go. So obviously having that experience, that traumatic event, and mum and dad were still weren't really getting on very well. It was just the home life wasn't the best. But yet on the outside, because I had this big cheesy smile, I did smile, I still do. Behind the smile, as they call it, we know that many people can hide themselves with a mask, and a smile's the biggest deflection ever. Because when you're smiling, you look happy, so people assume you're in a good place, but probably I wasn't going back then. So, like I say, school kind of went in a blur, but yet Boys Brigade, big factor. Youth club as well, love the youth club. Again, it was mainly football. I went away down south to Edinburgh, in Perth, and played football there at a good level. And it was one of the first times I was actually in Perth, and this guy came over, and he was a scout, football scout, and he actually said to me, "Where are you from?" I goes, "Orkney." He goes, "That's quite a distance away, but you've got something special. That's a gift you've been given. Any sport or music or whatever, it's a gift, but you can hone that gift." And I honed it very well. It was something I could do over 3,000 kiki ups, and I had the ball at my feet all the time, so I was good at it. And it wasn't, I wouldn't say that's been big-headed. It was something I was given a gift from. It's in my DNA as well, from my grandfather. My mum played sport, so sport was very much you probably would say the god of my life at the time, no doubt about it, because I gave everything to it. But let's go back to this Boys Brigade captain on a Friday night. So this particular Friday night, we're in his house, and all of a sudden the door opens, and these four guys came in, and it was quite a shock, because these four guys wouldn't be associated with coming to this guy's house, or coming to speak about maybe things that we were speaking about, which was faith at the time, and Jesus and God and all that stuff to them. What it was called, and we were having this conversation. The place went silent, but they came in and they listened, and one of the boys said, he says, "I'm quite intrigued by this Jesus character," and obviously heard a lot about it. And he said about his own family, kind of been churchgoers, as it's called. And I remember him, he said that night, he says, "I'm intrigued by it, but something you'd have to give your life accept that Jesus is God in your life, but he couldn't do it yet. He says, there's plenty of time for me. I want to have fun in the world's eyes, so-called fun. And it was only a few weeks later that the four of them were involved in a car crash, and this particular guy obviously lost his life. And it was one of these first moments I'd actually thought about, eternity. What is that word? What does it mean? Eternity. Is this it? Is this not just what we're living now, or do we have something else at the end of it? And again, at 15, I'm thinking, no, I've got plenty of time but that time, that couple of years in Orkney, there was lots of fatalities in car crashes, and at the time, Orkney had the highest fatality from car crashes per head of population in the United Kingdom. So imagine that. That's huge, is it? So a lot of young lads kind of lost their life, and I think every young boy my age and on the island were impacted by it, because it's such a small place. You knew the person or the people, and it was devastating. Yeah. So anyway, James Stockton, but I say his name, I didn't mean to. I'll take it back. But this guy was a huge impact on me, and still is. And one night, I was close to giving what we call my life to the Lord, and it's like you're basically saying a prayer to accept him as your Lord and Savior. But you know what? I looked around me and I thought, no, there's plenty of time. There is plenty of time for me. Like these young lads, I thought the same. But yet in my heart, something in my heart, and it's only when you go further down the line, what's touching my heart here? Many people will call it God himself, which was called the Holy Spirit. Something was touching my heart, and I was looking through life differently. But yet, my friends at the time were saying, Ricky, or called me a goody two-shoes or a God, etc., etc. And I thought, nah, I can't handle this. I just want to carry on and just lead my life. I'll decide what I do. I'll enjoy it. I'll decide if I go to a party. I'll do this and that. So that was my moment. I think we get many moments in life to recognize there's a God and eternity awaits us all. So anyway, going forward, we moved to a place called Aberdeen. I just stay in a place called Alford, which is 25 miles from Aberdeen. So you can imagine, let's imagine it, 17-year-old leaving Orkney with my parents and going to Aberdeen. Yes, you guessed it. It was like a big, big city to me. So I loved it. And I went out, met friends, started drinking, started smoking. I never smoked in my life. I was anti-smoking, started smoking, doing all sorts of things. Gave up football because of my job, and that was a hard one, because yourself, you sports people or anything you love and getting it taken from you, you will use other things to replace that feeling. And the things I used was wrong. It was too much drinking. It was partying. It was I'm not against going to a party having a drink, but it just took over my life every weekend. Thursday, Friday, Saturday was my lifestyle for the next few years, and it wasn't good. And
if you would like to contact us here at Lifestories Worldwide, you can simply by emailing lifestoriesworldwide@gmail.com or visit our website at lifestoriesworldwide.com.